Hey everyone, welcome to Filmme Talk, a podcast where two gals talk film, television, and everything in between the reels. I'm your host, Eliana Melendez, head of marketing and a critic here at FullCircleCinema.com, and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Miss Josie Melendez, also a critic here at FullCircleCinema.com, but y'all already knew that. We're going to really just hop into it today because you guys are getting fed. This is a very short window between episodes for Filmme Talk, and we're going to get into the latest Marvel debut, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which just debuted this past Labor Day weekend. And we saw the thing, and we also saw the thing in IMAX, and it was very good, as you guys have already probably heard from a million other different outlets, because it's been receiving incredible audience and critical acclaim, which is pretty wild, especially on Rotten Tomatoes. It has like what, 90%-ish on like both critics and audience scores. Almost unheard of. So that's really exciting for this new era of Marvel that we've been talking about pretty much since we started this series. And it's gonna be nice. And it's very much the Shang-Chi effect at the box office, which we'll talk about a little bit. But for those of you who don't know, because I feel there was quite a bit of not controversy. I don't know if controversies is too strong of a word, but there was a lot of talk that Shang-Chi did not get a super huge marketing budget or like a marketing ad campaign and all of that. It was definitely, for most of the year, very much under the radar for Marvel. It was not even that super highly anticipated as a Marvel Phase 4 film. And the actors were honestly, especially Simu Liu, it has been doing most of the legwork with promotion, especially on social media. And I believe it was actually one of our critics, James Preston Poole, reviewed Shang-Chi just before it came out because he was lucky enough to be able to attend CinemaCon. And since those fan screenings and critic screenings, about 2-3 weeks leading up to the release, the hype went through the roof because of the critical acclaim. And quite honestly, I don't think it's overhyped. I think it's very, very appropriately hyped in terms of hyped levels. Anyways, so for those of you who don't know, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is about the main character, Shang-Chi, who must confront the past he thought he left behind when he is drawn into the web of the mysterious Ten Rings organization. So this is basically kind of righting the wrongs of Iron Man 3 and their sins with the Mandarin, which we if you're a Marvel fan, we all kind of know what happened there. And that does get addressed in this movie, no spoilers, but I think it's handled extremely well and justice is served.
Yes.
So anyways, I have gone on quite a bit. Josie, what were your first impressions of Shang-Chi?
Well, I guess for me, it was just the whole sense of that lack of marketing. I had no expectations or a high anticipation for the film. I was looking forward to it because I sold my soul to Marvel a long time ago, as we all have. So I was going to watch it regardless. But it was very entrancing and enchanting to be able to see so many people that saw it early loving it. Because a lot of people were nervous with this whole aspect of usually when Marvel films are overhyped, they tend to disappoint once people start watching them. And this was not the case. People were overhyping Shang-Chi, and it was for a reason. It deserves the hype. And yes, I watched it. We saw it in IMAX. It was fun. And just the visuals, everything, the storytelling, and nothing felt out of place. The film is a little bit long, I will say, but everything had to be there. Everything that was there had to be there. I can see some places where people would say you could have taken that out, but either way, there is a lot of charm to the film, and there is a lot of lightheartedness added to the tough moments, because there are tough moments, and they could have gone way darker with the film, but of course it is Marvel, so it is perfectly balanced in every way.
I couldn't agree more. What really surprised me was, despite its 132-minute runtime, so it's 2 hours, 10 minutes-ish, it is a very lean script. There is very, very, very little fat to trim, if any. And especially those first 5-10 minutes of the story, the film starts off really fast. Like, you get straight into it, you know
Yeah.
what's going on, you know who the characters are, what they're being set up to be like, and you kind of just dive in straight into the action. And what surprised me the most was how little the trailers actually show of the movie. The trailers use mostly the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, and that's it. The rest of it is a very much, roller coaster of a ride, and it does keep you guessing. I didn't find it particularly predictable, and Marvel tends to stick to their formula.
Yeah, no.
And yes, there's a Marvel formula here, but they really kept us on our toes, and I really appreciate that. And I think that also has to do with the fact that not too much was given away with the trailers, despite, the limited marketing. We didn't really get a lot spoiled per se. And like Josie mentioned, the visuals in IMAX, if you liked, what could I say? What could I compare this to? If you like to go to IMAX to see things like grand visual spectacles like Godzilla vs. Kong, for example, which came out earlier this year, I highly recommend seeing this in IMAX for that same reason. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the IMAX aspect ratio remains throughout. Like, the whole movie is IMAX.
Yeah,
and
I think it was
really good.
made for IMAX, no?
Yeah, I think one of the posters said that it was like shot for IMAX.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you can, I highly recommend. Obviously, depending on, there's a lot of debate, very much justified debate on whether or not it's safe to go to the movies. It depends on your area. You can make that judgment call with your local movie theaters. Yeah,
if you feel safe.
Absolutely.
Because at least at my theater, people took off their masks and I was about to run out, but the film was good, but I really wanted to run.
You risked it all.
Yeah. Thank God it was no one next to me, but I saw people taking off their masks and I was like, what are you doing?
Bruh.
No!
Dude, at my IMAX theater, first of all, you needed to be vaxxed. You need to, like, flash the vax card. I'm like, okay, cool.
That was the thing.
Cool.
I think people were... Side note, I think people were feeling too comfortable because you could only watch the movie if you were vaxxed. But still, I don't trust you.
No. You should be wearing your mask regardless. I think what helped me feel pretty okay in my IMAX screening was that there was 50% reduced capacity. So the IMAX theater was half empty. And plus, not many people took off their masks. And if they did, it was just to eat their snacks. And then I noticed, I observed, people tend to put them back on. So luckily I had a relatively, responsible IMAX screening. But yeah, once again, make the judgment call. If you are someone who loves going to the movies and has been missing going to the movies, Shang-Chi is definitely a reason to return to the movies if you deem it safe in your area.
It is definitely a movie theater film.
Yes.
No question about it.
Yes. It is definitely a movie theater film. Of course, if you want to wait for it on streaming, go for it. You'll probably get quite a bit spoiled, but it's good. I say whatever you decide, definitely worth whatever wait you opt for. It's a very good film.
If you care about Marvel films, I would suggest you watch it. Try to go to an early screening. But if you can wait, definitely do, because again, the film is just that good. If the film is that good, it'll translate well to whatever screen. Not to throw shade, then throws shade. But again,
throwing shade and sand.
The film is good, so regardless, spicy. We got spicy there.
Oh my god.
So regardless of where you watch it, the film is really good, so you'll have a fun time because again, it is just perfectly balanced. The acting is phenomenal. The storyline kept me on the edge of my seat because again, we didn't know what was going to happen. It did not follow the typical Marvel formula the way it does. It's played around with it a little bit. So yeah, moving past this debate, watch it if you feel safe. Please form your own opinion. It is a great film. I think we can agree on that. I think the entirety of Full Circle Cinema can agree that this is probably one of the best films of Marvel Phase 4. And it is
Marvel
promising
period, honestly.
Yeah, Marvel period. And it is promising of what Marvel Phase 4 has in store for us. Like, I am excited for Eternals.
Oh yeah, this really, really hyped me up for Eternals even more. And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, stay for the mid credits and the very last final end credit scene. Both scenes are excellent, and they hold a lot of promise for the future of the MCU. And like Josie mentioned, us here at Full Circle Cinema are currently really obsessed with it. Even a lot of us that haven't really been super huge fans of what Marvel has done in recent years, because, you know, the Marvel formula gets repetitive, and I totally understand that. And I felt that. I still enjoy and love Marvel, but I haven't felt this enamored with a Marvel film in a really long time. And I hadn't noticed that until I saw this. Like, first 5 minutes, I'm like, this is cinema. I'm sorry. Hello? But yes, definitely worth it. Very good writing. The director, Destin Daniel Cretton, has incredible talent. Beautiful fight choreography is used in this film. It's definitely a really good balance between genres. I don't want to say which other genre it is, because I feel like that's kind of a spoiler. We don't really get this vibe from the trailers, and when, you know, you see the movie, it's a very lovely surprise of the different genre that it explores, which is kind of new for Marvel. But definitely go in expecting a more mystical journey. It's very fun. Anyways, I think that's it for non-spoilers. I really want to get into it.
Yes.
And okay, so let's just talk. If you by the way, if you want to support this in theaters and support it at the box office, record-breaking movie for Labor Day weekend, in or out of a pandemic, support a POC Marvel movie, please, because a lot of people thought this was going to flop, including Bob Iger, freaking Bob Iger himself thought this was gonna flop.
A lot of people. I remember when I was at I was able to go to a kind of masterclass conference thanks to Sundance with Victoria Alonso, and the last thing that we were talking about was Shang-Chi, and like, everybody should go, please go watch it. Like, they were urging people to go see it. And I remember that there came a point where there was an article about how if Shang-Chi was basically like the lab rat. If it did not do good, all these other films were going to push back, and we saw how Venom pushed back, and then they moved it up again.
2 weeks. The Shang-Chi Effect.
So it was very sad, because people were basically looking at this film to see if
it was the canary in a gold mine. No, just a coal mine. There you go.
It was just so sad.
Yeah,
because the pressure that people were putting on this film that had such did not poor marketing, but it did not have the marketing it deserved, as we clearly have pointed out, and just it rubbed me the wrong way. So I'm glad it's doing well. I'm glad it's proving people wrong.
Absolutely. And it's also proving people wrong in terms of, oh, Marvel doesn't need to be diverse. It's being forced. No, honey. It's proving...
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It is proving otherwise.
Yeah, because the thing has been with, like, Shang-Chi, and then people with Eternals also, because Eternals does have a very diverse cast, because, of course, if you're going to have people that represent, like, the inspiration for gods around the earth, of course they're going to be diverse, and they should be diverse, and thank God that they are diverse. So I am just so...
She's heated!
I'm so upset at people calling this, like, forced diversity. No. Phase 4 has been proving to take on a new leaf, and at least, again, Victoria Alonso, bless her, Marvel is in good hands. The way she spoke about
Do mention to the people MCU. Who she is, though, by the way.
Yes.
We need to put some respect on her name.
Executive producer, ¿verdad?
Executive producer and vice president of production at Marvel Studios.
Yes, I'm just like, ella una diosa, that's all I need to know.
She is. She honestly is. And yeah, I think this is such a beautiful continuation of what Black Panther started. Because Black Panther was like that first actual like POC Marvel film, which took almost 10 years for Marvel to make. But
Yeah.
We're finally
Which,
getting into an era where not only do we have more diverse characters on screen, we have more diverse directors creating and telling
yes.
these stories, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah, which, to point out, which I noticed instantly in the film after that conversation, one thing that Alonso mentioned was that when they are looking for writers and when they are looking for directors to collaborate on these films and TV shows, their main focus is the character. Who's going to tell the character's story well? Because, of course, when you see the titles, it's like The Marvels or Black Panther. Like, the story revolves around the character. So right now, their main focus is just trying to find people that can understand those experiences, those backgrounds, etc. So being able to see such diversity in these films just makes me happy. And people questioning it, like, get out of here.
I think y'all need to
we've done our waiting.
Yeah, we've done our waiting. I think y'all need to just hop on the wave and kind of grow up, because this is Marvel now, and I think it is a wonderful journey it's just beginning.
And clearly, Shang-Chi proves that it is appropriate. People want to see it. People want to see these changes. I mean, again, a lot of people right now have been promoting their stuff. Like, when they go to pitch something, they're like, oh, this could be your, like, you want a Black Panther? This project can be like your Latino Black Panther or something. Like, Black Panther set a tidal wave and made a change, the domino effect, and just seeing Marvel actually continuing and putting in the time and effort, like, not to give them praise, of course, because there's still a long way to go, but at least they're continuing, and they didn't just leave it that, like, oh, this is what we did. No, like, put your money where your mouth is and continue to put in the time and the effort and the work.
And don't just tokenize these characters.
Exactly.
So yeah, let's start with how I cried like 5 times during Shang-Chi, and I didn't expect that.
I'm so surprised that I didn't cry, because I'm the crier.
You are the crier. You cried on the inside though.
Yeah.
I was feeling emotional in that Chili's.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly it wasn't, I did not cry, but I did feel the same emotions that you did, because it, again, as soon as the film starts, it's in a foreign language, and you're like, let me bring out the Zillennial.
Bong Joon-ho was here in my head once the movie started, and it wasn't in English, and I'm like, you are really making the Marvel fans like tackle that 1-inch wall of text.
Subtitles.
Oh my god, you're gonna make people read subtitles? Who would have thought? And not just in the beginning. It continued throughout. Moves. It was a power move, and I loved it. Like, I don't even speak Chinese, and I teared up because I was like, the power that this has. Being, like, you're telling a Chinese story in Chinese in its original language as the way that it was originally told, and it's just subtitled, and you still get to enjoy it, but it just means that much more for also, people that speak Chinese.
The visual language itself was so accurate to the cultural history of cinema when it comes to Asian culture. And I love how there was not just the spoken language, there was, again, that visual language. And it just felt like they actually cared about this film and put in, again, that time and effort and that care into creating this story. So I really enjoyed that too. Like, you could definitely feel it. Like, you were sitting there and you were like,
this is nice. It's like being served a lovely dessert. It's like, you know, you're just there. It's like, I'm being treated. I'm eating good in the cinema tonight. And
I love that you can tell this film is good because we're just gushing here.
Yes, like, it's just good because genuinely, I know y'all are waiting for genuine criticism, and I'm sure that I'll come up with some, because, you know, there are some beats throughout the film that felt a little bit awkward, but they were so overshadowed by, again, a very lean script, a very, very well-balanced screenplay, that it didn't really bother me. It's bothered some people a little bit more, and I get that. There was some debate, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but like between there's a balance of we're in spoiler territory. We do explore mystical creatures and the fantasy genre, and there is like an incredible like beast fight, like mythical beasts CGI fight at the end that looks fantastic. And a lot of people, some people have been debating as like, oh, I wanted a little bit more of that emotional father-son story rather than that action element, which I can get. But I personally found it to be relatively well balanced because, again, this isn't a Marvel action film. So it's not like it's going to be solely focused on the emotional relationship between Shang-Chi and his father Wenwu, who is like quote unquote like the Mandarin. Um,
Yeah. I thought you were about to call me out because I was not fond of the third act. It was my least favorite act of all. Even though, okay, it was a good act. I think it was appropriate for the story, but it was overwhelming and there was a lot of sensory overload. So I think that's what put me off of it. But I will say, like, it's not a bad act. It was my least favorite of the three. And while I do feel this way, I will still give it its credit because the film did heighten appropriately and with a good and even pace. It did not caught you off guard, but of course for some people it's just going to be a little bit too much. And I do accept it. I think it did need to happen for the story, but again, it's that sensory overload.
It was the execution.
So many things start happening at the same time. So maybe if I rewatch it, I'll feel a little bit more comfortable because I'll know what's going on. But at least in that moment, some people might feel overwhelmed, especially if you're not used to this kind of story with Marvel, or if you're simply not used to being, because the film starts off very mundane, and then you slowly start elevating to like, oh, now we're facing these bad guys, oh, and now this is happening, oh, now we're traveling, and then oh, magical creatures and mystical beings and everything. So like there is an even pace of elevation when it comes to adding these elements, but again, it's a sensory overload that might not appeal to some people.
Yeah, and it's not so much calling it out. I just I totally understand that, and I can see that. Surprisingly enough, I didn't feel a super huge like sensory overload in that third act, but then again,
I was like,
yeah. Then again, I think I was just so in it. I was in it.
I mean,
it is
fun.
Very fun, and
It's
I was
fun.
surprisingly enough able to keep track of what was going on. It is like it is fast paced. It's like it does give you kind of that whiplash, but I think the French Dispatch trained me to to feel. The French Dispatch really trained me to like not kind of catch this.
Wait. Shang-Chi is more tame.
I know. I was like, I've been here with sensory overload, so I can handle this here. That's what I'm saying.
No. Shang-Chi is tame next to the French Dispatch. Take
Absolutely.
that as you will. If you've made it this far, take that as you will. Oh.
Yeah. You just had a trauma response. War flashbacks. She's back in Cannes. Anyways, so yeah, that third act, very much just huge. Just goes all out. And like Josie said, it does definitely build up, and I appreciate that. There's definitely a lot of care with the script, and what I wanted to mention was it's so important to note that the reason that there is so much care and a delicate touch with this kind of story and the way that it's presented in terms of like not just the spoken language but the visual language is because of the perspective the creators behind it have. Without having an Asian director, you really won't get that with this movie. If you had somebody else directing, it was not going to be the same. It was not going to hit the same way. And that applies to a multitude of stories, especially very specific, diverse stories. And it's just important to keep that in mind. So yes, let's keep going on this track. We're on the right track with Marvel. I really hope that they maintain that momentum, and we're getting this and Eternals back to back. And with the box office success that Shang-Chi has had in the past weekend, I hope that this really helps motivate Marvel to fast track their future projects in terms of like more diverse characters, an America Chavez film, etc. And not be afraid. Oh, go off, sis.
I'm sorry, you mentioned you mentioned the magic words. I think that was what got me most emotional. Just Because for the longest time, when it came to America Chavez specifically, and sorry for the segue, but it just, I remember just watching it. And if I was feeling that way, I can't imagine for people that were watching this film and like that could see themselves in it specifically to their experience. Because there just came a moment where I used to think that America Chavez could not be done by Marvel. I thought it was too far out. I thought we probably will never be able to see this on screen. And just seeing Shang-Chi just made me so happy, because it was one of those moments where you think, oh, we are worth it. We can, like, they can give us this out of the box craziness. Again, sensory overload, but at the same time, it warmed my heart to see them go all out up to that point, because it just proves that they are willing to go the extra mile to tell these stories now. Years ago, we probably wouldn't have gotten this. So it just made me very happy to think that, hey, we could do America Chavez, especially like with, because if you read the volumes, you know, like going into dimensions, just the whole cosmic aspect of it, la diosa, lo taíno, all of that, like the culture within it, and just to see Shang-Chi do that, I was like, oh my god, this can actually be
It's
a
possible.
thing. So yes, it's possible. And like speaking to Shang-Chi now specifically, just being able to see them again give that love and care is just, it makes me happy. I think the general consensus is that we're happy because we deserve this. So many people deserve this. Like Black Panther started it, and now we have this, and just I hope we keep going, because we are like, it's not a stop with the tokenism. We are the main characters.
We are the protagonist.
We are the
Yes,
protagonist,
ma'am.
not to give Nolan any residuals.
Absolutely not. He does not have rights on the protagonist.
No.
Okay.
But we are the
We
protagonists.
are, absolutely. And so now that we've gushed for quite a bit, let's get maybe into like the specifics. The third act, we've already discussed, sensory overload. What was your favorite element of the movie?
I think my favorite element was definitely character work. And of course, the fight scenes. How can I not talk about the fight scenes? But before we get into that, I just think everyone felt like a person. Everyone had their own motivation. Everyone had their own character traits. Everyone had their own past, that even if it was not explicitly mentioned, because of course we can't get into everyone's haunted past, but you immediately know, okay, this is this kind of person. And they're not even stereotypes. They might be an archetype, but nobody is stereotyped in this film, and I think that is the strongest aspect.
I absolutely have to agree with you. I think even Aquafina's character, Katie, who's kind of like the quote-unquote sidekick, was still, she had her own arc in the movie, and she was still very much a fully fledged human character. And what I would love to really highlight is how wonderful the women here are. The women are here. There we go. English.
Oh.
The women are so good
in this film.
So beautifully handled, so wonderfully written. I think Katie has really great development. Michelle Yeoh's character, who comes on later in the film about the second act, wonderful. Even the mom, like Shang-Chi's mom in those flashbacks, still a very fascinating, interesting character. And she didn't even have that much dialogue, but again, there was such a beautiful visual language that you still got the story. You still got the gist of it, and it still felt right, and nothing felt super out of place or out of character in terms of like motivations and decisions. And I just have to give a shout out to my queen, Xiaoling, Shang-Chi's sister. I believe in Xiaoling's supremacy. I think she is such a fascinating character. She is so multifaceted, so incredibly talented. I think the actress was just so wonderful. I need to mention the actress's name because she did an amazing job. Menger Zhang. You did great, honey. I'm so impressed. I think that her fight scenes and her fight choreography was always up to par with Shang-Chi's, and not only that, the way that her character was actually made out to be pretty much just as important as Shang-Chi himself, and was given just enough to do as well. Like, she was really, really actually treated as an equal, and their dynamic as brother and sister worked really well. So it wasn't just solely a Shang-Chi driven movie. It was definitely a Shang-Chi and Xiaoling movie. And I don't know, I just think it worked really well. And the twist at the end with that post-credit scene was actually, surprisingly, it was set up perfectly well. Again, nothing was so super out of place. Everything developed the way that it felt natural to do. And she is definitely gonna be, in the future of Marvel, that anti-hero. I don't know if outright villain, but she's, I don't know, I just love that she is such a multidimensional character, and it just worked really well with Shang-Chi. So Shang-Chi had his own really good development. He had really good backstory. But I love that there was that balance between him and like the female characters around him, and I appreciate that. And the way that they also set up Katie to have an important role in the future of the MCU without being forced. Chef's kiss. I enjoy this very much.
Yeah, I think the other thing we can mention is that the comedic timing of this one was good, but it did fall into the MCU trap of sometimes diminishing deep moments with that humor, which again, it's to lighten up the darkness of it all. But some of them were actually good, because I was genuinely surprised. I'm like, oh, they're doing the comedy thing again. But the comedy was good. But there were moments where it was like, okay, typical Marvel. But overall, again, it's good.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those Marvel formulas where they tried to work around it, I feel. And it didn't feel as forced when they tried to implement the comedy in this film. So it doesn't feel as basically cringe. It doesn't feel as cringe as other Marvel movies. I feel, a lot of the times, especially like things with like Spider-Man and maybe like that first Doctor Strange film where they're like, oh, we're all so funny, so you don't forget that we're a Marvel movie. I didn't feel that as strongly in Shang-Chi. So they're definitely learning from past films' mistakes. And I think, again, very, very good balance. There was a lot of thought put into this particular Marvel formula with Shang-Chi. And I hope that they continue to give Marvel films the same amount of thought and detail. Another thing, the fight choreography was exactly what I was missing from Mortal Kombat. If y'all remember our Mortal Kombat review, like way back in March or April, I was really disappointed because I expected fight choreography that was creative, precise, and clean, and I got all of those things in Shang-Chi, so I am a very happy camper. It was so creative. We got different fighting styles all throughout the movie. The cinematography really allowed you to enjoy it and appreciate the fight choreography. It wasn't super jump cutty. It wasn't there. In those elements, in those fight scenes, I didn't get a sensory overload. It was definitely well paced.
So the thing with the choreography is that the stunt coordinator that worked on Shang-Chi has also worked on the Kingsman films. So that is why I was excited for it, because the Kingsman stunts are known for their fluidity. And I really liked that aspect was brought into Shang-Chi. That's the thing I was most excited for, because I love the Kingsman films. People feel a certain way, but I do love the stunt movements because, again, they have that fluidity, and it was definitely brought into this one, and they even paid tribute to him because he sadly passed away in August of this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's right. I had totally forgotten about that. That's sad. Yeah, he did incredible work.
I'm sad because I was looking forward to this film because I knew Brad Allen was involved in the film. So to find out that he had passed away made me very sad. But it was nice to see that legacy holds on, because just that one scene when the Mandarin meets his wife.
In Talo,
It
yeah.
was, it was, it was Central
It
Cinema at its
really was.
finest.
And that was literally right in the beginning of the movie. And we just kind of went straight into it, and I was like, this is beautiful. Again, a visual language.
This is
Visual language
beautiful.
of two characters falling in love from completely different parts of the realm, and they barely had to speak a word to each other. And we got that not only with the cinematography and the direction, but with the fights themselves. They were dancing with each other, basically, and it was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, everything just complemented each other. Everything had a really good flow. And if you've seen the movie, yeah, that, you know, flowing with the wind is definitely a really big theme with this film, as well as not is flowing with the wind and then also flowing with the water because of the Great Protector. And I think the only thing that I have left to mention and really highlight is the dragon. That dragon was cool.
Yes.
I really liked her.
It was.
She was really cool. Their Great Protector. It was very much what Raya the Last Dragon was trying to do, like, for kids, on, like, a smaller scale. Shang-Chi went all out. And the way that Great Protector just kind of beautifully floated out of the water and into the air, it was just... It was something straight out of... The Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild game. Yes. In that video game, people who are gamers, hello, love that video game, especially Nintendo Switch fans, because of the visuals. And in that game, you have exactly that, like, beautiful water dragons just floating out of the lakes and just kind of vibing. You know, here obviously it was a fight scene, but the way it was introduced, my mind immediately went to The Breath of the Wild, and that was also a moment where I teared up, and I'm like, I'm crying over a dragon. It's just it was so majestic, it was so beautiful, and again, really built up. You know, it didn't just come out of nowhere. We knew about the story from the very first moment. We were teased a dragon or a great mythical creature protecting this realm, at the very least, from the very beginning of the movie. So everything had at least a mention throughout the film, and everything fell into place. And it was just nice. It was very satisfying cinema, I must say. But that's basically it for me personally, gushing on Shang-Chi. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to mention as we wrap up.
Yeah. I think it's just the case that we are giving that criticism. The only thing is that the film just did a good job. I can't think of anything that I would change. I think what happened was supposed to happen, and clearly people are enjoying it. So if you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you do. Of course, as we mentioned, your safety comes first. So watch it however you feel comfortable. And I really hope you enjoy it. Please form your own opinion. These are just our thoughts, but we are not the only ones. So clearly this is a gold mine.
This is definitely a gem in the MCU, and honestly, it's in my top 5, and I didn't expect it to be. I'm gonna be real. I really, throughout the year, didn't expect Shang-Chi to go off so hard. I think even at one point, I was like, oh, I feel like they're treating it like, the Ant-Man movies, where it's just like more quote-unquote low-tier Marvel, or just like more low-key, even though I love the Ant-Man movies. I love those, but those were also treated like low-key.
That's what bothered me. People were comparing Shang-Chi to the Ant-Man movies before it came out, and I was like, why are you guys making assumptions? That's why I was so heated earlier. I'm like, you guys are rude. People were being so rude to this film, and nobody knew anything about it. The trailers literally do not give the story away, as trailers tend to do nowadays. So, I don't know. I was heated, but I'm happy. It's getting what it deserves. So
it's getting its flowers.
Get off, haters.
Definitely check out James Preston Poole's written review of Shang-Chi down below. I'm going to link everything down below. He is not the big, he's not notoriously the biggest fan of Marvel, and a lot of it is justified. There is a lot of formulaic redundancy in Marvel films. This is known, but even he loved it, and it pretty much made him fall in love with Marvel again. And I think that's going to be the case with a lot of people that have kind of fallen out of love with Marvel. This is definitely going to bring you back, and I hope that this new era brings back old fans that kind of gave up, and even more new fans. Where can they find you, Miss Josie?
Well, you can find me at the Josie Marie on Twitter and Letterboxd, and you can find Film Posers basically everywhere.
And you can find me at Captain Melendez on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Instagram. And you can absolutely subscribe to Full Circle Network here on YouTube. Follow us at Full Circle Cine on Instagram and Twitter. And definitely read all of our reviews and news on FullCircleCinema.com. Be sure to hit the like button. I'm trying to be a YouTuber. Look at her. Make sure to hit the like button. Turn on subscribe, turn on the notification bell. No, definitely do though, because sometimes it happens to me that I don't see it in my subscription feed, and I make these videos, so if I have a hard time finding them, then definitely you guys should turn on the notifications. If you are watching us on YouTube, if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure to rate the podcast, leave us a little review, and share your thoughts, leave a comment, whatever you would like to hear or see us review next. If there's anybody in particular you want us to interview, help us get that interview perhaps, and keep enjoying. I hope you guys enjoyed this little show that we have going on here called Filmme Talk. Hope y'all have a lovely day wherever you are, and go watch Shang-Chi. Bye.